Hi, and welcome to the Freedom Law Group Law Library. In this video, we'll be discussing the revocation of election process, which allows you to revoke your election as a taxpayer and exit the federal income tax system forever. Before filing your taxes for the very first time, you were protected by the original Constitution, specifically Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4. This provision prohibits Congress from imposing direct taxes on individuals unless they are apportioned among the states based on population. As an American national, someone born or naturalized in one of the 50 states of the Union, or to a parent who was, you were shielded from federal income tax liability. This protection remained intact until you signed what we call the 1040 confession form, the very act that changed your legal status. By signing the 1040 form, you elected or voluntarily agreed to become a statutory taxpayer. Before that moment, you were not legally bound to file or pay federal income taxes. Some individuals file their taxes for the first time at 18, others at 22, 25, or even later in life. Yet the IRS does not pursue them prior to that first filing. Why? Because until you file for the first time, you are not classified as a statutory taxpayer. The act of filing and signing the 1040 form is what creates the legal obligation to continue filing and paying taxes. Once you have filed, however, the situation changes. A taxpayer is always taxed. Anyone who has filed even once is considered a statutory taxpayer, with a legal expectation to continue filing and paying taxes for the rest of their lives. Congress designed the system to create lifelong compliance, while the Constitution originally protected individuals in the 50 states from this type of direct taxation. This entire framework is built on semantic deceit. Congress knew that direct taxes like the federal income tax violated the original Constitution and would be struck down as unconstitutional if applied to American nationals in the 50 states. In fact, the Supreme Court ruled just that in 1895 in Pollock v. Farmers Loan and Trust Company, declaring such taxes unconstitutional. So Congress employed a strategy that relied on narrowly defined terms like United States and state in the tax code, which refer only to the District of Columbia and U.S. territories, not the 50 states of the Union. But knowing that some individuals would uncover this deception, Congress included a legal remedy for those who entered the tax system by mistake, the revocation of election. This process allows individuals to undo the election they made when they filed their first tax return, restoring them to their original status as non-taxpayers under the Constitution. The legal basis for revoking your election is rooted in 26 U.S.C. Section 6013 of the Internal Revenue Code. This section outlines how married couples who file jointly are making an election to be treated as taxpayers. If they later choose to file separately, they effectively revoke that joint election by filing a new return. In situations where one spouse is a U.S.C. citizen and the other is a non-resident alien, a term that legally applies to American nationals, they must submit a formal notice of revocation to the Secretary of the Treasury to terminate the joint election. The law states, if either spouse revokes the election, by filing a statement with the Secretary, in such manner as the Secretary may by regulations prescribe, the election shall terminate for the taxable year in which such statement is filed and for all succeeding taxable years. 26 U.S.C. Section 6013, G. 4a. This principle extends beyond joint filings. Just as married couples can revoke their joint election, individuals who mistakenly elected to be taxpayers by filing a 1040 form can also revoke that election. By sending a properly crafted revocation of election to the Secretary of the Treasury, you terminate your taxpayer status for the current tax year and all future years. The revocation of election process is simple in concept but requires careful execution. Your statement must be clear, citing the relevant statutes, definitions, and Supreme Court decisions that support your position as a non-taxpayer. It should acknowledge that your initial election to be a taxpayer was made in error due to misinformation and semantic deceit. Consider this: the IRS relies on your voluntary compliance. The federal income tax system is built on the premise that individuals will elect to participate by filing a 1040 form. Without your consent, the IRS has no jurisdiction over you as an American national residing in one of the 50 states. But once you have filed, the burden is on you to revoke that election and restore your constitutional protections. This is not speculation or theory, it is codified in law. Congress has provided a process for individuals to correct the mistake of entering the system, and it is legally enforceable. The revocation of election is your remedy for reclaiming your status as a non-taxpayer and walking away from the federal income tax system forever. But let's address a critical concern: why not simply stop filing? While millions of Americans have done so, this approach is ill-advised if you have previously filed. As a statutory taxpayer, you are legally obligated to continue filing and paying taxes. Simply stopping could lead to significant legal issues with the IRS. The revocation of election is the only lawful way to exit the system safely and permanently. Your revocation of election is more than just a statement, it's your legal shield. By including the necessary statutes, court decisions, and evidence of the IRS's limited jurisdiction, you demonstrate your understanding of the law and your intent to comply with it. Once submitted, the IRS loses its jurisdiction over you, as you are no longer classified as a taxpayer. The IRS knows this process is valid, which is why properly executed revocations of election are rarely if ever challenged. Their system relies on voluntary compliance, and once you revoke your election, you are no longer a part of it. If you are ready to reclaim your freedom and legally opt out of the federal income tax system, click the link below. We will guide you through every step of the revocation of election process, ensuring that you can exit the system with confidence and peace of mind. It's time to leave the federal income tax plantation forever.